made the final move on the devil, securing your victory forever, if you will simply play out the remainder of the game, according to his directions, and underneath the overarching rule of his kingdom agenda. You will claim your victory. That is guaranteed. The great thing is that you don't have to earn your victory, nor do you have to figure it out for yourself. God has already given you everything you need in order to make your next move on your path to triumph. As we begin, I want you to realize this key principle. You are not fighting for victory. You are fighting from victory. The battle has already been won. The history of the battle. To grasp the truth behind this principle, you first need to understand the history of the battle. It all began when God made the first move by creating the angels. Lucifer, the anointed angel, responded negatively to that move by rebelling against God and taking 1/3 of the angels with him in that rebellion. God countered that move by creating man in his own image, a little lower than the angels. Satan rebelled against that move by enticing Adam and Eve to sin, thus turning earth over to his control. God then countered Satan's move by providing a redemptive covering for Adam and Eve so they could return back to fellowship with God. Satan made his next move by inciting Cain to kill Abel in order to cut off the godly line. But God responded to Satan's move through the birth of Seth, making a way for men to begin calling on the name of the Lord again. Satan countered that move by luring Nimrod at the Tower of Babel into thinking he could make himself and his people as high as the heavens. For God's next move, he turned his gaze onto a man named Abraham, calling out a nation through him to be holy and set apart. Satan, however, countered that move by trapping this nation in Egypt under Pharaoh's rule. But then God grabbed Moses in Midian and placed him in position to knock Pharaoh out of the equation altogether. Throughout the remainder of the Old Testament, the game went on like this: move, counter-move, move, counter-move. By the end of the Old Testament, we have reached a time of 400 years where no move is recorded by either side, as both sit staring at the board in silence. But when the New Testament opens up, we see God reach for a special piece, his own Son, Jesus Christ, and move him into a new location from heaven to earth. Satan attempts to counter God's move by tempting Jesus in the wilderness. Jesus overcomes his move through using the Word of God. So Satan then tries what he thinks is going to be his final move of checkmate by orchestrating the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. But Satan miscalculated something very important because he didn't realize that death on the cross was not a checkmate move. In fact, it was just a setup for the final move that God would make to checkmate Satan by raising Jesus from the dead. The accomplishment of the cross through the resurrection of Christ was God's final move and offered each one of us victory over an enemy who was seeking to intimidate, deceive, and destroy us. The ultimate winner of this game has been decided. Victory has been secured. While you and I are on earth and still in play, we need to live in light of the truth of the victory gained through that final move, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Because of that decisive move by God, Satan no longer has authority over you to defeat you. His only means to overcome you is to deceive you, to make you believe that the winner of the battle is yet undecided. How the spiritual impacts the physical. By illustrating spiritual warfare through a simple game of chess, I don't mean to minimize the severity of the battle, nor the enormous depth of pain and number of casualties that have resulted from it. It is a battle. We are in a war. In fact, the war we are in is like no other war that any of us have ever known, or heard about, or could even conceive. If I were to ask you to think of the absolute worst war in human history,